I know some of you are tired of being victims, tired of being told you can't achieve your dreams. You want to achieve your goals, that the things in life you want to do, you can't do. That the things you want in life are unreachable. I know you are tired of hearing that. That is why I'm talking to you today. Because today, I want you to fight back. Fight back for what you believe in. Fight back for what you want to achieve. Fight for your dreams, fight for your goal. Sometimes you're not just fighting for yourself. Sometimes you fight for your friends. Sometimes you fight for your family. Make certain you fight back. Yes,
Okay, and there we go. I thought I played Kanye West there. Thanks again to Pam Jones for making those different introductions for me, so you're not always bored with the same one. Good morning, everyone. Today is the 9th of May, 2019. I'm Roy Potter. Welcome to the Potter Expositor. And what a day yesterday was. I called this video The Lawmakers The Lawbreakers because I think if President Trump had not accomplished anything else in his presidency, whether by hook or by crook, by wit or by accident, he has successfully unveiled the deep state and the criminal activities all throughout our government, and also the media and the social networking platforms. If he hadn't done anything else, because of course the motto of my channel is what? Yeah. The intel community is our most dangerous domestic enemy. What I'm doing is I'm just checking this to make sure that the chat's on it is and that the video is halfway decent. And it looks like everything's okay. It's a clear day today. I shouldn't have any problems in the transmission, but you just never know. You just never know. Okay, so I'll keep an eye on this. It'd be nice to have, a studio where you have a crew to take care of this, but I'm just not at that point yet, and I probably never will be. Okay, so I want to give kudos to President Trump for that. I know that has been a horribly painful process. He may be tough, but, no matter what, when you have people constantly falsely accusing you and your family and your friends and your supporters, it weighs down on you. And I'd like to talk about that in scriptural terms too, but this is too early in the program to do that. I'll just save that for the end if I even touch that aspect of it at all, which I kind of will in a very different sort of way. So at any rate, what happened yesterday? We all know that the House Judiciary Committee, headed by the Penguin, Congressman Nadler, I hate to call him that, Congressman, I mean, the committee voted to hold Barr in contempt of Congress, and it'll go now to a House vote. And it'll probably pass there. Of course, all the Democrats line up. As Trump said, that's one thing they do well. Democrats and the leftist Marxists, if they have any honor and integrity, they have absolutely no problem tossing it out the window to accomplish the purposes of the entire collective. They don't mind doing that at all. They'd kill babies, which they agree to. So there's nothing to stop them from doing something like this. However, as everybody should know, it was the Congress that passed the laws on what can be revealed, unclassified, shown to the public. And one of those things that cannot be are grand jury proceedings. And yet Nadler and his democrat, leftist Marxist demons, and they show themselves to be demons more and more every single day, demand that Barr violate the law, the very law that they put into place to protect themselves back during the Clinton era, which shouldn't surprise anybody. Pelosi gets up there and Waters and all these, and they're constantly talking about, we've got to follow the Constitution. We've got to get back to our Constitution. We've got to, the Constitution says this, the Constitution says that. They're not fooling anybody who has their eyes open. Those people violate the Constitution with impunity. They only say something about it when it helps or they think it helps their cause. Otherwise, they're the first to go against it, as always. So Barr did the right thing. He didn't show up, in my opinion, and I think in everybody's opinion at this point, President Trump has invoked executive privilege from now on this whole matter, which he held back on during the Mueller investigation itself, as everybody knows. So he showed a lot of restraint there. I didn't think he should do it at the time because it's prolonged the agony that the country is in. But by the same token, maybe it was the wisest decision, at least at this point now. He really has shown the deep state, the IC, the rhinos, the Democrats, the leftist Marxists, the media, for who they really are. And if America wants to go that way, everybody prep, pray, stay out of the way. Try to take care of yourselves, because I don't know if you saw Alex Jones' show yesterday, but it was pretty dire. And I know a lot of people say, well, he's just looking for clicks. No, I agree with him wholeheartedly in his entire analysis there and his explanation of what's going on. If you haven't seen it, go back and see it. It's about world government and this panopticon and what Facebook is doing. And now they're going after people's, not just taking them off Facebook, but anybody mentioning them now gets banned, or their pictures are up and they blank them out. They're going after their bank accounts so that they can't make money. This is the end times. I've held off for a long time because you don't want to sound the alarm too early. You don't want to sound like Chicken Little, although I usually do anyway, because this is such a dire thing. But Alex's rendition, explanation of it yesterday was entirely appropriate and good, and I would encourage you, even if you don't like Alex, put that personality thing behind you. Go look at the principles that he's talking about. Yeah, he's going to have a lot of commercials and stuff like that, but he puts out some good information yesterday. And again, I agree with him 100% on what he said. So at any rate, now the lawmakers have shown themselves, and that includes some rhinos. Of course, the vote yesterday was right down party lines, and it'll continue that way in the House, the full House. But they've shown who they are. Remember, the federal government as a whole has violated the Constitution for so long they don't even pay attention to it. Not even in a public forum like this where it's obvious what the law is. If a person encouraged someone to break the law, I think that's an accessory, or at least maybe not an accomplice, but an accessory. So the whole body of the House Judiciary Committee, except for the Republicans, can tell Barr or order Barr to break the law. When they're in session, they're immune. I don't know if you understand that, but that's the way it is. But I'll tell you what, anything that's going on behind the scenes when they're not in session, they should be collared right away. And I've talked about that for a long time, that President Trump and now Barr need to get aggressive in going after these people. Now, I saw something today that I thought was interesting. And again, thank you folks for sending me this information. I see it, and I really do appreciate it. A couple things I couldn't verify. I might mention one of them. I'm not sure, but that I couldn't verify. But this one I could. The whole situation with Pelosi is that, like I said, she's always invoking the Constitution, right? That's what she's constantly doing. And well, you know what? I think I'll cover that a little later too, because it ties into something else if I remember. It's kind of important to hold on to that. Just suffice it to say that these people are criminals, and if Barr and Trump are serious, then Pelosi's statement and these other Democrats, including Clinton, who have said, well, Trump hates us, okay, and we hate him. We hate him. And the real fact of the matter is that it's really probably what Clinton said when back during the campaign when she said if he gets in, then he's going to hang us all. I think that's what they're really worried about. Now, Trump backed off of that, of course, for the last couple of years. But right now, with the way that the Democrats have come after Barr and how they've come after Trump the entire time, including rhinos, look at this ridiculous senator who is called Donald Jr. in front of the committee to talk about the Russian stuff again. It's over with. And yet here we have a senior Republican subpoenaing Donald Jr. I mean, that should infuriate Trump. There is no reason for Trump not to go after these people. And oh yeah, they're going to cry. That's one reason why they're doing this stuff to Barr. They're trying to say, well, any prosecutions that Trump and Barr do against us is going to be retribution, political retribution. It's not because of any crimes. No, I assure you that Trump and Barr are going to go after the crimes, and they will be able to prove it in court, and they can't wait. They've really got. I want them to get their ducks in order, but we need to hand Clinton. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we need to hand these Democrats, these leftist Marxists, these treasonous, seditious criminals in government and in the media and in our institutions, corporate or otherwise, we need to go after them and collar them, as you all know. Okay, I'll move off of that. Dan Bongino always does great shows. So actually do Lee Stranahan and a lot of other people. But yesterday I was watching Dan Bongino, and he's been going down the same road now. He's finally going down the same road that I've been on for a long time, and that is that I don't trust anybody in the IC. I don't know if most of you will remember, but one of the big things with the letter back some time ago was trust Sessions, trust Wray, trust Rosenstein, well, I never have trusted Wray. There are a lot of reasons for that, and he's revealing himself more and more all the time. Wray is a deep state swamp rat. And like I said, I've called that out from the day that he was put in. Trump needs to change some of this stuff, but I won't bash that today. What I will say is this. Bongino yesterday said Wray betrayed us. Duh. He's been betraying us the entire time. He's betrayed us all along, and of course what Wray did was he went along with Senator Sheehan. I don't think that's exactly how you say her name, but you can look it up. and said, no, it wasn't spying, it was surveillance. I saw this thing this morning, as a matter of fact, and again, thank you folks for sending it to me. Surveillance is surveillance. It's French. And it basically means spying is what it means. So this is all stupid semantics to try to do damage control. But the fact of the matter is, Wray's a freaking liar, and he's a deep state criminal. And we got to get these people out of office. They got to go. But Dan Bongino said after all of this, because of what happened with remember it was with the Department of State. Kevlek lady who Christopher Steele went to see in 2016, admitting that this was a political stunt by the Clintons and that there was no basis for any of it, but that then people like Strzok and Page and Comey and all these people needed to get out ahead of that, and so they hid this communication, this memo that Kevlak wrote down, and went on with their business trying to investigate the president and impeach him or throw him out of office in one way or another. In other words, a coup. So this thing was kept under wraps, and then, like I told you yesterday, I think it was, Wray classified that document just this past April 2019. Why? To hide misconduct, criminal activity by the FBI under the banner of national security and protecting sources and methods. And I'm going to tell you again, what is the source and the method that they're afraid of getting? It's not just names. And it's already come out. I'll tell you what it is. You plant information into the news cycle, into a media or some other place, And then you come back around and you cite that as the source for your probable cause or your suspicion to open up a case and then to go on probable cause to get warrants and things. It's a big fat lie. That's the sources and methods primarily they're trying to protect. I'm just going to tell you what it is. That's what it is, a good portion of it. And it's going to be very evident in this memo from Kevlak. So Dan Bongino, basically he said, hey, POTUS, AG Barr, Ray is not a good guy. I got to apologize to all my listeners because I've been saying that I was giving him the benefit of the doubt and he's betrayed us. I'm sorry, Ray's not a good guy. He's a bad guy. And enough already. Here we go with another classification. No, President Trump. Declassify now. Declassify all of it. Take this little snippet out of my whole presentation here and send it to Trump and tell him, declassify now. Now, he might want to wait till the IG report becomes public. Like I said, I'm pretty sure AG Barr already has it. They're probably planning how they're going to let it come out. Whatever. And they might be waiting to start declassifying them. But, man, Trump, you got to do it. I mean, these damn Democrats and leftist Marxists, look what they're doing across the board from Zuckerberg to Nadler, Pelosi, Waters, Dianne Feinstein, Schumer, Ray, Brennan. Look what's happened here. And by the way, Dan Bongino and others, John Solomon, Lee Stranahan's been talking about this for a long time. Unfortunately, he's not getting any of the credit, or very little. But the ties in now to the Five Eyes, as we've been talking about for a long time, is now more solid. We now know for a fact that MI6 and GCHQ in Britain, and I will say it here, we know about the Italian connection, and plus the Five Eyes, Downer and all that from Australia, all of that. But the tie directly to Britain and Gina Haspel looking the other way, who was now the CIA director, who was the station chief there during all of this mayhem and foul play, has helped to cover it up, unfortunately. Why Trump can't get this information? Maybe he's got it already, but it's got to get to him if he's not. It's the same thing. I'm going to talk about Bolton here in a few minutes and show you. He's finally wondering about Bolton on this Venezuela thing, but we're going to talk about that separately. But at any rate, the bottom line is declassify now. I guess Bongino must have said it a half a dozen or a dozen times yesterday, and I agree. Now, one of the other things I wanted to cover is Dan Bongino in his presentation yesterday, and I've heard this from other people as well. It's almost like Dan goes further in a lot of cases, but the basic construction of the presentation never goes outside of bounds, and it's because Dan was part of the law enforcement community, federal enforcement officer, and he doesn't want to see the institutions go to hell or be blamed for all this as institutions. But in fact, that's the case. Again, the intel community is our most dangerous domestic enemy. It's not just individuals at the top. It's permeated throughout the entire thing. But at any rate, they're wondering, they're basically saying now, if you've been listening to this at all, this whole explanation from Solomon and Dan Bongino picked it up and some others. Like I say, Lee Stranahan's been on this for a long time. They're saying, and rightly so, that Brennan was the hatchet man for Obama. Absolutely 100% correct. And he had a counterintelligence operation going on, spying on Obama's political adversaries. And I am relatively certain, knowing what I know about what happened in Utah and in Nevada during the Bundy Ranch situation, just prior to it and after it, that these political enemies included anyone who stood up against the Obama regime, I'm going to call it, with the unconstitutional things that they were doing, be it the Bureau of Land Management, the DOJ, the Department of the Interior, the EPA, all this UN cities stuff, and bringing in the Agenda 21, pushing support for the Muslim Brotherhood, all of these things. This has been a war on our American Republic by Obama. and the people that he represents and that represent him, that follow him. That's what this was. And the entire thing there that's been going on out in the West here is indicative of these land grabs and these attempts, like for Clinton to get the uranium ore to Russia and to personally benefit from that. And the same thing with Harry Reid there in Nevada over the land there, the solar farms, and that was the cover story. But there were some other minerals there that they're after. Anyway, the point is, Obama was after everybody. I'm sure that his political spying and these warrants went down. I mean, if you have, my bet is this: if you have had any contact on your emails, even you know how your emails, I get them all the time on Twitter and on my email accounts from people overseas, Australia, Britain, Germany. They find your email address even if you don't put it out. Mine is available because of my book publication. But I get these emails. I guarantee you that if you have contact with foreign nationals in any way, shape, or form, then this thing that Obama was doing grabbed you into the dragnet. Not because they're afraid of your contacts, but as an excuse to gather data on you. And if you ever become a political opponent, that they can go after you in some way, shape, or form. Look how they've said that people that had contact in the Trump administration, just mere contact with a Russian, that was collusion, which is nonsense. Well, that's the kind of thing that they'll do. I told you about how they tried to entrap me at Bundy Ranch. If you don't know about that, go back, and I couldn't tell you which show it was, but basically they had 2 federal agents who tried to talk me into taking charge there at Bundy Ranch, which I never was. Like I said, I was there to document and to stand by and yell foul if they attacked the residents, the actual farm, the actual ranch itself of the Bundys, or if they did any other nefarious things that were there, because I fully anticipated, for instance, the day of the actual standoff when Sheriff Gillespie was giving his speech there at the stage, and I saw that they were setting up observation posts, and so I knew that this thing was a trap of some sort. I was genuinely concerned that one of the BLM, or FBI hostage rescue team members, somebody like that, would shoot Gillespie. And I was up in the mountains. I don't know if you've seen my up in the mountains, up in the hills above the demonstration area, not the corrals, but where the stage was along the Bunkerville Road. I saw that and I thought, he's out there in the open. All we need to have is him shot, and they'd blame it on us. So I went up in those hills, and I was scouring those hills. I had binoculars. I was going into ravines. I was going anywhere that looked like it. And it could be a long way away. There was no way I was going to be able to go 1,015 yards out. But I knew what to look for, and I was out there looking for it, and thank goodness it didn't happen. Regardless whether it was because I was there or not. I'm glad it didn't happen, but I fully suspected that they would pull a false flag like that. So at any rate, I know how these people operate. I know how nasty they are. And this is all a preparation to tell you what I'm going to tell you now. So they're wondering, these people are talking about Brennan being the central guy for Obama, who was working all this out on this criminal or this counterintelligence operation that turned into the investigation into collusion and all that, to cover their tracks on spying on all of us. Political opponents to the leftist Marxists, to the Muslim Brotherhood, etc. I'm serious. That's what this is about, and that's what they're trying to cover up. That's what the whole thing was with, or at least a good part of, the Jade Helm deal back a few years ago. To nail some of these dissidents down. I mean, they came around my place. I followed one of them out. I'm not going to go into the story. I scared the crap out of the guy. I think he thought I was going to kill him or something. I don't know. But anyway. So anyway, these things are going on. So I know I keep bouncing around on this, but I'm trying to show you how deep this actually goes and what they're trying to hide. Okay? Seriously. So the question then becomes, how did Brennan convince the FBI and both Dan Bongino and these other people will say, "Oh, there's no question that these people at the FBI hated Trump. You know, we can tell that they hated Trump, that they were never Trumpers, anti-Trumpers." I would go so far as to say anti-American Republic, constitutional republic. I would go that far to say that. But they weren't excusing the FBI behavior. Let me make sure that you understand that. Dan Bongino's not excusing their behavior, but he's saying he could see how Brennan could work them into agreeing to do these things that did not require, or that they should have required, and they didn't do it, to follow the Woods procedures and proper verification. Because, Brennan said it, right? And Lisa Page, during her testimony, showed surprise that Brennan was even knowledgeable about this prior to. She didn't know that was the case until Meadows had talked to her about it. I think it was Meadows. Anyway, what everybody's forgetting here, and I got to give this credit to American intelligence media, Betsy and Thomas of American intelligence media. They're the ones that first pointed this out, and they're absolutely correct. Brennan's in to the FBI. The FBI, really the entire IC is controlled by the CIA, even the FBI. It's just that some barriers still exist that prevent the CIA from operating as law enforcement. So they have to have an attached FBI person to deal with them. A good place to see that is the movie Sicario. It's a horribly bloody movie. It's a really crazy movie. But in there, Josh Brolin basically tells Emily Blunt. Emily Blunt plays an FBI agent, and Josh Brolin is the CIA guy in charge. And they're going after this stuff here in the United States, which the CIA can't do unless what? They have an attached FBI agent, somebody from the law enforcement side. You see how that works? So that was the reason why Strzok was in. The CIA recruited him probably a long time ago. So he's still, even though he's out of the FBI now, supposedly, that's what we've been told, he is still very active in the CIA. And that was Brennan's into the FBI. So how did Brennan get the FBI to take this hook? Strzok. Very simple. I'm sure Comey was involved too, but Strzok was the actual meat and potatoes guy. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Strzok is CIA, not just FBI. And that's how Brennan got the FBI to go forward, not just with the help of James Comey. Just thought I'd mention that. Strzok needs to hang as far as I'm concerned. Strzok needs to hang. Comey needs to hang if they're found guilty. Arrested, and this will probably never happen. Life imprisonment's too good for these guys with all the horrible things that they've caused and what they've done to the American people. And I could name all sorts of things about that. Okay, so Brennan had Strzok on the inside of the FBI, and that's how they got it through. And then when Strzok saw that this Steele dossier and all this stuff was about to be exposed, and what happened with the DOJ, with Kevlak, all of this stuff, they panicked, and because they knew that could bust out the whole thing of what they were trying to do to spy on not just Trump but everybody. And Strzok had been involved in that for a long time. Okay. Let's see. I will say this on this thing with Barr. As I said at the beginning, this proves that the Democrats will and do break laws to accomplish their purposes all of the time. And there is a two-tiered justice system in the United States. This thing that happened in the Judiciary Committee against Barr yesterday is proof of that. And it needs to be rooted out. So despite the fact that they're, as I said at the beginning, they're using this thing with Barr so that they can come back around and say that any arrests that are made by Barr are political retribution, that they can talk about that in the public. I don't think that argument would fly in the courts. Maybe with a jury, I don't know, but certainly in the court of public opinion. And the bad thing is here, of course, the Democrats, the Democrats, and the leftist Marxists, and our law enforcement community, federal law enforcement community, and locals too, will order people to do unlawful acts, and then that's their patsy. Under color of law or by misinterpretation of the law, like they're doing this thing with Barr, or even despite the law. They're lawless. They really are lawless, and they'll be lawless. Look at the sex slush fund, the emergency slush fund. Supposedly that's supposed to be put aside now, but you can bet there's some sleight of hand going on there. Okay. Okay. I think I've talked about most of the information there that I wanted to. Let me say this. The Washington Post, to go along with what I was saying about Bolton the other day, you remember I was sent some information from the Israeli News Live that the Iranian opposition group, the People's Mojahedin of Iran, which is controlled, it's opposition, it's Iranian opposition, and it's basically a tool of Bolton and the IC to cause problems in Iran and for Iran. Now, I don't like the mullahs. You got to understand, I don't like the whole thing that the mullahs and the Khomeinis have done to the good Iranian people. But the regime is a problem, I will admit that. But here we go with another false flag being set up, and I talked about that yesterday. And yet, Trump still says that Iran is not living up to what's expected of them. Okay, well, he's getting that information from Bolton and from his other military advisors, right, who have a stake in this, of course, because they're looking strategically to stay on the underbelly of Russia, and I've talked about that for a long time. Well, yesterday, a Washington Post article came out, and thank you for the people who sent this to me. I appreciate it very, very much. And it's true. It's absolutely 100% true. And let me show you what this is here. We've all been suspicious about what's going on in Venezuela. Why did, and a lot of people are going to get upset at me for saying this. I'm not saying Maduro's a good guy, okay? I'm not saying that at all. But we can make arguments for other people not being good guys too. Does that mean we should get involved with their business? No. As far as I can tell in Venezuela, the opposition to Maduro is certainly not 100%, and I'm not even sure it's 50%. I'm not certain it's even that high. What we're seeing here are probably several years of work by the CIA to undermine the Venezuelan regime. We've done it before. That shouldn't surprise anybody. Probably cause all the economic problems that they've done. Listen to Steve Pachinik, how he says he took down Russia. He actually helped to undermine the economy. They can do that, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they haven't done that in Venezuela. But Trump's ran on, and his policy has been, his feelings have been not to get involved in foreign affairs, to get out of these international regime changes, right? So this morning in the Washington Post, let me show you this. I'm going to back this. Okay, yeah, we can do this. Hopefully you can see this. Okay, what does it say there? Let's see if it'll... That's the bad thing about this camera. It doesn't like to focus on these things. It says, a frustrated Trump questions his administration's Venezuela strategy. Go read it. Well, guess who that is that's pushing that? Of course, none other than John Bolton, the rat. This guy's a viper, but he's an evil viper. It's not that he has courage. No, he wants to fight proxy wars. He wants to kill your sons, your daughters for his bravissimo. I hate the guy. I really honestly do. I really hate him. And for Trump to bring him in is a big mistake. And Pompeo's a problem too. Pompeo may be great in the Secretary of State in some ways, but he's deep state, he's CIA. I tell you what, I think a lot of people could do just as good a job, if not better than Pompeo. But anyway, in this article it says, let me just read this part. The president's this is from the Washington Post. I'm giving them credit, okay? The president's dissatisfaction has crystallized, about damn time, around National Security Advisor John Bolton. And what Trump has groused is an interventionist stance at odds with his view that the United States should stay out of these things. Amen. Hopefully he sees Bolton for what he is. How he could not have before this, I don't know. But that's a little glimmer of hope. I just hope he applies his eyes awakening on Bolton and the Venezuelan issue to also the Iranian issue. It's like I said, the diplomatic solution for this is not going to be well received by the military-industrial complex, the intelligence community, the deep state, the shadow government, the New World Order, the EU, or anybody else. But the solution really is for us to stop the Cold War with Russia and to become allies. And the Iranian problem will resolve itself. Okay? That's the answer. But nobody wants to go there. Okay. I think that's about all that I had that I wanted to cover this morning. Let me make sure that's the case. So there were a couple things I added onto my deal here. Let's see if this is one. Oh, this is good. Since I talked about Director Wray earlier, here is Dan Bongino's tweet. Okay. Oh, that focused very nicely there. And it says, "My sincere apologies to all of you for giving FBI Director Wray the benefit of the doubt. He showed us all his true colors today. He clearly doesn't have what it takes to uncover the truth we all deserve to see." Thank you, Dan. Thank you, man. Thank you, Dan the man. Boy, that's been a long time coming. And sooner or later, they're going to have to admit that these people that are in control of the FBI have planted the newbies coming in for the last couple of decades. Planted newbies in there who went along with their leftist, Marxist, and fourth branch of government, actually fifth. I know there are three branches of the government, but then you have we the people. And then they thought that they were above all that, these IC people. And they've been doing this for years. And so eventually Dan's going to have to say, I know a lot of good FBI agents, but I'll have to admit there are a lot of bad ones. And old Sean Hannity's going to have to do the same thing. And the FBI needs to be dismantled. And if they're going to keep it in any way like its current form, they're going to have to reconstitute it and put in some real serious controls. In the meantime, the military intelligence people and the marshals can take care of it. And there's going to be problems there. But we need to show that we'll tear apart an institution when it becomes corrupt. And that's a corrupt institution. Now, as I said for a long time, Barr is in there to try to save those things. And so his response to what happened to him in Congress and in the Senate, in his hearings, what he is seeing in the IG report and all of this is going to be tempered with concern for the institutions, and I've said that from the very beginning. I think that's a mistake. I think that they need to make an example of these, not just the people in the institutions, but the institutions themselves, that they are not above reproach, that they are not above the law. As I just said, they violate the law with impunity. I told you one day here not too long ago, the DEA was caught doing something illegal, and they said they're going to continue to do it until when? Until a court tells them to stop. If you did that, you'd go to jail, right? Okay, we'll get. I am going to spend some time today on the chat, but before I go there, okay, I've kind of made it a plan now that I'm going to, at the end of the political military commentary that I give on whatever I think is, in the news but not well known, and that's kind of where I try to go with things. As you know, you can go to these other people for more commonly found information, I guess is what I'd say. Be it the MSM, God forbid, or people like Alex Jones or any of those people. Headlines with The Voice, all the ones that I talk about. Pardon me, coffee's making me burp. But at the end, I think we need to spend a little time on spiritual study. I'm not going to make a big deal about it, but since I showed you about breaking down the name of Hallel yesterday, and Kokab, the bright star, and how Lucifer isn't a star in the normal sense. And the monks really could have translated that as just, rather than putting in there a Latin word, Lucifer, Lucius, they could have just as easily, but for reasons I'm sure that the Pope and the Roman Empire were concerned with. And I know, well, the Roman Empire went away. It's still around. It's still around in other ways. But they could have just gone in there and said pride of the morning, because that's kind of what it is, or accuser of the morning. They didn't have to use the word star, which is also used in those translations. But as I showed you, it's about two flails, the two llamas, and using that to force you to do what's right. And that was the whole issue of the war in heaven. Forcing you to do what's right, which the PC crowd now with Zuckerberg and Facebook and the banks are trying to get you to do. That's really our manifestation of this principle, these two principles that are at war, the situation with forcing you to do what they want you to do that they consider good, and free agency, free will. That clash. That was the war in heaven, and now we're seeing it manifest here, unbelievably so. And almost probably exactly the way it happened in the war in heaven, if in fact this isn't the war in heaven and it's going on right now. Max Egan actually says that. He says, we actually went through this already, and we're now witnessing on this plane how we did it in the one before. Well, okay, I could probably go along with that. But in that same light of information, there's a difference between light and darkness. And I wanted to cover this just for a minute today. Usually I'll use a whiteboard, but I don't have that set up here. So if you don't want to hear about this, feel free to go. It's all right, but I think it's important for those who have the thirst for knowledge to see this, okay? The word for light in Hebrew, there are different ways of it, and I don't want to get into all the other nitty-gritty details, but primarily we'll talk about the first and second verses of Genesis 1. Well, the first two chapters. Light in Hebrew is or, and it's basically an aleph and a resh. I'm going to show you this in a minute. And then darkness is koshek, and it's a chet, a shin, and the final form, which isn't really in the biblical scriptures, but I went ahead and wrote it down this way today. It's really a kaf, as I've told you before, which means in the hand. Okay, so what we have here is these two words. So I'm going to put this up, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this. I just want to show you why I dissect the Hebrew words, why they're important. Okay, and this is it here. All right, so the first one, light, is or There was a place called the Ur of the Chaldees where Abraham came from, and basically that meant the light of the Chaldees. Okay, that was in the Sumerian times, and there it is in Hebrew. I'm not real good at writing Hebrew. I do the best I can. I don't have the proper pen work for it, but Hebrew reads from right to left. So if you look at that, on or there, the first letter is aleph, and then the second one is resh. Okay, so you have or there. That's how you pronounce that. Darkness, like I said, is koshek, and what you see there, reading from right to left, is a chet, a shin, and the kaf, the final form of kaf. I could have put the regular kaf in there. It means palm of the hand, basically, is what it means. So what do these mean when you break the words down? And this is what's so important about Hebrew, because The letters have numerical value. They have not just phonetic value, but they have intrinsic meanings. And this is another level of a lot of people say, oh, Kabbalah's bad. Well, no, there are good and bad Kabbalahs just like anything else. And this is basically a form of that, more on the line of rabbinic hermeneutics. But what this says is, when you look at the word light there, is it says the Godhead, the head of God. In other words, light comes from the head of God. It comes from the great eternal. Now, there's another way to look at this. Again, Aleph is God, or it can also refer in some cases. Well, I'll just leave it at that. We'll use it for God at this point. And Resh is head. Well, why would it talk about a head God? Okay. Yeah, a lot of people say, well, Jesus is the life and light of the world, and of course, all light comes from him, etc., etc. Okay, that's fine. We'll go with that. But the point is what it's saying here is that light is from God. Okay, God separated the light from the darkness. He separated the light from the darkness. And what is darkness? The absence of light. Another way to say it is the absence of God. Separation from God. And that's basically what you see in the word darkness below. There's no aleph there. Okay, you have the hate, which is right. I'm doing this backwards as well. There's the hate right there. It's numerically it's the number 8. It means barrier, fence, wall. Okay, barrier, fence, or wall. A barrier. Remember I said darkness is the separation from God. God's not separated from you. You separate from God. I mean, God can pull away from you, but he has the power to break through the darkness if he sees fit. But when we choose darkness, we have a hard time breaking through it, and that's the reason why. There's a wall there between us, and what's this? The shin represents, I could go into this, it represents a number of ideas, but in this one it's what's called the Shekinah, the light, that comes from God, is what this is going to represent here. And of course, the kaf, the hand, the cup of the hand, is of course being, in this sense, God having you in the cup of his hand, as I told you about before. So what darkness is being cut off by a barrier from the light and life of God and his protection, the cup of his hand. Do you see how that works? That's the amazing thing about Hebrew. And I wanted to go over that this morning just so you can see that when I talk about these things, I'm getting into some real deep information. And that's why I have so much respect for the Torah, well, for the Tanakh generally. The Tanakh is the Torah, the law, the Nevi'im, the writings, and the Nevi'im, the prophets, and the Ketuvim, the writings. So you have the Torah, the law, the prophets, and the writings. So that's basically everything in our current Bible, Old Testament from Genesis to Malachi. And then, of course, we throw in the New Testament. And yes, I people think, oh, Roy, you don't follow the New Testament. No, I didn't say that. I said that I'm careful about it. Just like when I showed you that the monks changed the word of Hillel ben Shakar to Lucifer, Lucifer, son of the morning, instead of the star of the morning, right? Or the pride of the morning, that kind of thing. How they change that, and then you lose a lot of the concept and certainly what's really happening, right? Like the self-pride, the self-puffing up. You miss that completely there when they changed it to Lucifer. And whatever their intention was, it still messed with your understanding. So like that happened in the Torah, you have to be aware of those things. And there are others. That's just a good example. I mean, I could show you some others, but I don't want to get off in the weeds. The same things happen in the New Testament, but even to a greater degree. Why? Because the Old Testament, the Torah, the Tanakh, had basically been around for many, many hundreds, if not thousands of years. It was originally an oral tradition. It got written down first in Proto-Hebrew, and then it went to the Block Hebrew during the Babylonian period, but whatever, Ezra and all that. The point is that that would be pretty hard for Rome to change. But the new attempt at restoration of the old law, the restoration of the implements of Moses, the restoration of Israel, all of that, and its rule of itself, Rome had to defeat. And during that period of time, with Christianity being a restoration of, not the old law wasn't replaced, and I won't get into a big discussion on that here. But Jesus said it himself, and he said, not one jot or tittle of the law shall pass away until all is fulfilled. And he didn't mean him. He meant in all time, okay, which hasn't happened even yet. So basically, the Romans saw in the situation that was happening in the Messianic, Zealot, basically the Qumran and the Hasmonean movement that was still left there, even though the Herodians were controlling. Herodians were Edomite Arabs that the Romans put into power, starting with Herod the Great's father, and I always forget his name, but it's I remember it sometimes, and then I forget it others. But basically, there's Herod's father, who was the first one to convert by, and his line, by Jonathan, the Maccabean king Jonathan, who basically forced the Edomite Arabs to convert, which is against Israelite rules, covenants. You don't force anyone to do anything like that. That's Islamic. that's other things. It's not supposed to happen like that in Israelite law. So John Hyrcanus was the one who did that. The Maccabean Hasmonean king John Hyrcanus forced Herod and his family and the Edomite Arabs to convert or be killed, right? Totally wrong. And that's why the books of the Maccabees are separate from the rest of the scriptures, because the Maccabees really went too far. But at any rate, God then judged the Jews, we'll just call them that at this point, judged the Jews for violating his law about not forcing people, not interfering with their free agency. God punished them by doing what? Bringing those people to power over the people that had forced them to convert. You see how that worked? And he did it through the Romans. Okay, so the Romans then got involved because there was the revolutionary people, the Zealot movement, like I said, the Messianic movement, those things, trying to throw off Roman rule, the revolutionary Jews, I'm just going to call them that. That's not really the case, but in all cases, but those people called them the Romans, Katim, in other words, the invader, etc., and went into guerrilla and other military operations. The Bar Kokhba rebellion, a century later, almost 2 centuries later, was just a continuation of that, and of course that was put down by the Romans as well. But all of the things that you see happening in the New Testament in particular that don't match up with Torah, and this is why I say this, are because of the Roman influences, the Greco-Roman influence, to try to control the Jewish revolutionary movement, Messianic movement. Bingo. I won't go into any more detail there. That's enough. Okay, now let's see what you guys are saying in chat. We'll spend a few minutes on this, and then we'll cut it down. By the way, if I didn't say thank you for coming, thank you for coming. Okay. I'd love to read all these. Josh, I got to read yours. The Dems can hold my morning dump in contempt. Yeah, Chad, also they're taking away credit cards. Yeah, this is all following through biblically. It really is. You can't buy and sell. And what did I say is the mark? And the outward use of chips to operate and all of that is true. The mechanisms of that will happen. But the real issue is what is written in your heart. I always do that. In your heart and in your mind. And I talked about the tefillin that the Jews wear, that the Israelites wore when they were praying and doing certain things. The tefillin on the forearm here, just beyond the bicep. tied to the hand represented the connection to the heart, and then the one that's on the forehead for the mind. So that this concept of the law of God in your mind and in your heart has been around. Jesus wasn't the first one to say that, okay? But conversely, Satan copies it, and it's the same thing. If you have the satanic Luciferian leftist Marxist concepts in your mind and in your heart. So that's where the distinction's made. These chips and things are just the outward enforcement of those principles, okay? So the important thing is that we get our hearts and minds straight. And again, like I said, I believe that there is a healing coming, but it's not everybody's going to receive it, as we know. So yeah, they're attacking our credit cards, they're attacking our financial abilities based on political ideology. This is Stalinist Russia. This is Maoist China. These people that are doing this from Clinton and Obama, Soros, I mean, we can talk about all of them, but all the way down to people like Ocasio-Cortez, who I really am starting to, I mean, this whole thing with her and the not knowing what a garbage disposal is, I don't believe that. Do you believe this? She worked in a bar, didn't she? Wasn't she a bartender? She's been in the food service industry for how long? And she doesn't know what a garbage disposal is? I don't buy that. She might just be, she's so crazy in what she says. Look at her Green New Deal, how absurd that was. Maybe, in fact, she is a Trump plant. Maybe Trump got her to infiltrate into the Justice Democrats who thought they had a winner here. And really, she's a plant by Trump to sabotage the leftist Marxists and the Democrats. I'm beginning to wonder. There might be something to that. Anyway, I'm sorry I spent too much time on that. Let's see. These are lots of empty RCs. Yeah, I know tinfoil hat, and I don't like. This is why I don't like Pompeo. But he wouldn't say it if Trump didn't agree with him. Trump has ties, and I understand that. And I've talked about him wanting to have allies, and Israel is it's like David going to the Philistines. Plus, he has Jews in his family. I understand that, but no, yeah, Pompeo does say anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. That is wrong, and he did hire an anti-Semitism czar. That is free speech. That is wrong. I don't like Pompeo. He's evil. He smiles nice. He sounds good, but he's got an evil heart. And no, anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. And I would be happy to go on a public forum and argue with any of these people in public, watched by millions of people if you want, and I would argue that point. And I probably, Brother Nathaniel, if you know who he is. I don't follow Brother Nathaniel that closely. I'm aware of him. I have followed him as far as, I check on him once in a while. But obviously he says the same thing. And there are Orthodox Jews who will tell you that Zionism is not, or anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. And in fact, Zionism is contrary to the will of God. That's what a lot of Orthodox Jews will tell you, which becomes really interesting with Kushner, because Kushner is Lubavitcher. Yeah. Something wrong there. Thanks, tinfoil hat. Yeah, Josh, you're right. These democrats that are trying to violate the law, order Barr to violate the law that they themselves put into place, etc., etc., yeah, we need to make sure they get due process. We don't want to railroad them. We want it to come out properly, because first of all, we can't say we're for the Constitution if we deny them their God-given constitutionally protected rights. So I agree with you. We need to give them that due process. And there's no problem with that. I mean, yeah, the courts could still, mess us up and all that, load the juries, things like that. But it needs to come out. And none of these hearings should be classified or in secret. None of them. And that's another reason why Trump needs to declassify all this information. To hell with sources and methods. That's just a lie anyway. And when it will cause a problem with maybe, we've got this particular type of operation going on in this particular type place in the world with these particular people, that's not going to come out. It's foolishness. They're just, the IC is as a lying, decrepit corrupt group of institutions. Tinfoil hat, yeah, I don't care about, how many people I watch. I notice, I don't keep track of it, but I notice my numbers really drop. Probably when I talk about things like Trump's not doing his job, because that doesn't go. People don't want to hear that. Or I talk about, how these religious concepts are influencing what's happening in the world, and especially with the social media and the media, etc. And I'm sorry if people don't like that. But it's like I said the other day when I wrote the Crimson Thread, and I was approached by a movie director from Italy, and we were well on our way, and I thought we were going to make a major motion picture out of it, and then they wanted me to make Mary Magdalene a transgender crossdresser. I said no. I don't care. I'm not gonna to sell my principles out for clicks, followers, or anything else. I'm going to give the information that I feel I'm guided to give. And I'm not a good speaker. I keep too many ideas in my head at one time. And I'm not good for my audience that way, because I can get it so it's too complicated with too many things going on, too many syntheses. And I understand that. But I still feel like I need to go down that road, and hopefully if people don't like it, they don't have to stay here. So anyway, yeah, I'm not surprised. And I have been throttled. I won't go into some details here, but I am having some serious problems on my live streaming capabilities. I'm not going to go into it here. And on archiving things. I think that YouTube is doing something to my videos, and it's making it harder for me to at least the live streams, to keep hold of them. That is happening. So if any of you have, it might be interesting for you to try too. If you have downloading software, try to download some of my live stream videos. Well, actually, any of my videos. And apparently there's, at least as far as my ability is concerned, I'll tell you this much, there seems to be something going on that's preventing me from doing that. Just so you know. Of course, that's part of the whole thing anyway, the copyright laws. They don't want us to be copying other people's videos, embedding them, showing them, or even bits and pieces of them again. And maybe I've been effective enough in the few times that I've done that they've decided to put the kibosh on it. That could be too. The government is too big. NW Nature Lady, we need to reset their limits. No, we just need to hold them to the limits that are set in the Constitution. Of course, nobody wants to do that. Yeah, I agree, Rosa Sharon Homestead. She says Pelosi's new equal rights bill destroys individual rights. Of course. They always call it just exactly opposite what it is, like the Patriot Act. Yeah. All right. Let's see what else. Is your tie tight? Looks like it. Not too bad. It's probably the way that I lean into the microphone. It probably sounds that maybe it's not really tight. Part of it is I didn't drink enough water this morning, and I'm drinking coffee, and of course that dries out your larynx. Yeah, Chris Garcio. They always sickeningly invoke the Constitution, but my pet peeves, when they say our democracy, which they know we're not, and when they say the American people want the truth. I know. We're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. Even the Republicans do that all the time. I get so tired of it. Frick, Trump does it. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. We need to make sure we're saying the right thing. But yeah, they invoke the Constitution. Like I said, it's disgusting. And the next thing they want to do is take away your Second Amendment and your First Amendment. Yeah, which should be inviolate. Those should be inviolate. There's no way those should be infringed in any way, shape, or form. There might be exceptions, but the problem is every time you let an exception in, they build on it for precedent until eventually they take it away completely. That's how these asses work. All right. Let's see. We're so tired of their parsing of words. Yeah, true. Is Mueller the head of the SES? No. I don't think so. I think it's been And I can't guarantee this, but from all I can gather is it sounds like it's this Orr guy whose wife has been involved with this whole coup deal. Nellie Orr. I think it's Bruce Orr. I think is who it is. I mean, as far as controlling the pay and all that kind of stuff. Who's actually in control of the SES? Well, I think most people would tell you it's the British Crown, it's the Queen, or at least the Privy Council in England. And that's probably true. Tom Grundy Highway says, Roy Potter needs to join the Marines and get educated, son. Hoorah. I don't know what your point is there, Tom, but I'm not a blind patriot. I don't wave the flag blindly, my country right or wrong, because that doesn't work in a constitutional republic. And I don't know what you're getting at, so I won't say it much further than that. But no. I see these signs on the Marines, for our nation, for us all. Bullshit. The Navy, a global force for good. Bullshit. Sorry. Not with the current structure of the military-industrial complex and the intelligence community and the DoD. No, sorry. We are not a global force for good. We could be, but we step on our own principles all the time for empire's sake and for regime change and banking control and those types of things. Look at what we're doing to Russia. No. So I don't know where you're going with that, but that's it. Truth Seeker, no, I have no interest in praying medic. I already know too much about him. Just because he gives you a little good information doesn't mean I'm going to go get it. No, thank you. He's already shown his true colors, and so have all those people. I have no interest in them whatsoever. Okay. Yeah, Teddy Armstrong, you keep showing up, don't you? You say Trump doesn't read his own intel. He sure isn't going to read or look at our vids. Well, no, I know that's not true. Didn't I tell you? I showed a letter that I got from President Trump. He saw at least 2 of my videos, or portions of them. Yes, he did. If we're loud enough, it gets to him. Yeah. At the time period that this happened with me, there were people that were trying to closet him in, and I'm sure they still are. General Kelly was one of them, but I think somehow I'm not sure it got past General Kelly, but for some reason or other, it still got to Trump. Yeah, no, it can't happen. His own intel, would you accept intelligence briefings? I mean, you might do it as a formal thing, but would you accept intelligence briefings, as Trump said, from the very group that's caused our intelligence failures that weren't really failures? They were plans to destroy and do the things that they've done, but have done the things that they have for the last 60 years. Trump doesn't trust them, and he shouldn't. What's really surprising me, why he brings Pompeo in and Gina Haspel and all this. I will never be able to resolve that in my mind. Saying that he wants to get rid of the deep state and he keeps people like Gina Haspel was probably helping them gather the information that was used in the dossier and the coup. She was there in London when all this was going down with Papadopoulos. The section chief, the station chief. And now she's head of the CIA. I do not understand these things. It's like I've said many times, it's like Eisenhower inviting Himmler over to be in his war room. It just doesn't make any sense. So anyway, no, he does. And he certainly, I mean, just the other day, he put out that vid. He tweeted that vid out of Millie Weaver's and Caitlin Bennett's. So he does. I don't think he does it enough, and I think he needs to change a lot of things with his contact with the media. One of the things and I'm hoping he comes on here pretty soon. My Republican insider brought this up. President Trump needs to start having a weekly fireside chat like Reagan did, talk about what's going on, especially when he declassifies this information. He needs to come in the Oval Office. He needs to sit down and some of the mainstream media will try to not, or to put a kibosh on this, but there are other ways around that too. He needs to have a fireside chat with everybody about this whole situation with the declassification he's going to do. He needs to do that. And my Republican Insider and others he should follow their advice and have a weekly fireside chat from now until all of this gets resolved, at least on some kind of a semi-regular basis. Yes, Jamon Niad, yeah, they are also afraid of the total exposure of the Five Eyes and how they use the British intel communities to spy on us. Absolutely. And to cause all this havoc in the world, all these false flags, all that stuff. Yeah. And the coup against President Trump. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I know. Republic of Texas, he says not one counterpunch from Trump. Trump's complicit. You know what my position has been on that. I've called Trump out for failing to act. As we enter this stage right now, with what's happened to Barr in the House Judiciary Committee, with him saying there was spying, with him having to know of the criminal, not just criminal behavior, but treason and sedition, all through the federal government, the DNC, the Democrat Party, the IC, the law enforcement communities, all of this. We'll watch now, okay? This is the time. And yes, I will agree with you. And that's why I'm saying I'm waiting for the first caller. If it doesn't happen, we're on our own anyway, but it's going to be even more so, okay? Just so you know. I'm very upset that Trump hasn't acted more aggressively on the First, Second, and Fourth Amendments. I've talked about that time and time again. Supposedly some things are being looked at right now as far as the social media censorship and all that, but it's almost too little too late. I mean, they've got to start antitrust things like today. The election cycle's coming up fast. Yeah, I know. Val says, what is Wray's second name? You mean Christopher Wray? The director of the FBI? It's Christopher Wray. That's his name. 624TG, you've been here before. The Five Eye organization is part of the beast. Yeah, I've talked about that for a long time. The entire intelligence community, especially the Five Eyes, the Western intelligence services, are evil. They're absolutely 100% evil. They don't do what they do to protect the people of their nations, is to protect the elite and their coming to power. I mean the IC. Like they did here. They're trying to dictate to the American people, who should be the president over them, rather than it following proper election protocols and laws. And yeah, I know people say, well, Trump has been picked by the elites and this was all planned out in the long. Yeah, that might be. But I still think he was an outsider that they didn't like, and that his movements, at least initially, and hopefully he'll pick up steam back to where he was when he was on his campaign and follow through. If he does that, then he was a Manchurian candidate against them, okay? In other words, I'm hoping that's what happens. I'm not saying that the evidence is there. No, not by a long shot. Not with red flag laws, bump stock bans, no investigation of the LV, real investigation and opening up what happened in Las Vegas, the Harvest Festival shooting that day, the situation with 9/11, the fact that he really hasn't brought out all of the information on the JFK assassination. But on that, I will say this. I do believe that Herbert W. Walker Bush, in other words, number 41, was involved in the JFK assassination, and that's one reason why he didn't. President Trump then agreed to wait till he passed to bring it out. And then with all this other stuff that's going on with the coup against Trump, he may have made a deal that he will keep that quiet if Barr helps him to beat this coup. It's possible. And I'm not saying that's even a bad thing. Because as much as I would like the truth about the JFK assassination to come out, because it proves the criminality and the treason of the IC, etc., and would give a basis for us going forward to fix things, at the same time, you've got to take your opportunities when they present themselves. And do we want the country to get fixed for the future, or do we want to, don't misunderstand what I'm saying here, do we want to dwell on an event in the past that we can't fix? If I see an opportunity to get Barr in here, who knows where all the bodies are buried, if I can get Barr in here and he has had an epiphany and he's going to help me to drain the swamp, and that's an agreement that came out during that funeral or whatever, I mean, this is all conjecture, but if that's the case and we can secure the future for ourselves and our children, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it. Yeah, I agree. Trump should be listening to AIM and every broadcast with Michael McKibben. I agree with that. From what I understand, some of that has gotten to him. Some of it has gotten to him. So, Tinfoil Hat, you talk about Bongino, Solomon, and Carter being gatekeepers. Hannity is a loyal stooge. There's some truth to that. I don't think Bongino does it... well, I think he probably knows, but he also realizes, I think, that the big picture can still be made without getting himself in too much hot water with Fox. We'll see. I know AIM is very much against Solomon and Carter and somewhat against Bongino. I don't know that Sarah is CIA or has been. I know Solomon has had a rather checkered career with Soros, etc. I know that. But at this point, some information is better than none. So, hang on. Let's look and see what happens. Barr's going to be able to get to the root of it without the help of Solomon and Carter. Okay, let's see. We've been going for an hour and 17 minutes, so I don't want to keep everybody here for too long. Let me just see if something jumps out of me. I don't mean to miss everybody here, but yeah, time is of the essence now. It's getting late. Go watch Alex Jones today. I know. Alex Jones is a Zionist. Oh, Alex Jones works for Mossad. Oh, Alex Jones is an insider with the government and the deep state. So is the NBC. So is CBS. So is CNN. I'm telling you, I've had my problems with Alex Jones, okay? But who else is being demonized more than him? Only Trump. And I at this point I think Jones is being demonized more than Trump. Alex has his faults. He's struggling. He's fighting a war. I understand that. I wish he could stop being so concerned about growing and just concentrate on being informative at this point and not try to build any further. I know he wants to. I'm not certain that's a good idea, but I'm not a businessman. I'm just looking at what he can do as opposed to constantly being a continuous run-on commercial, okay? And I know he says some things. I have a lot of respect for TruthStream Media. That's Melissa and Aaron Dykes. I really like those two. I love their videos, their investigative reporting, all of that. If you don't know about TruthStream Media, please go and look at them and subscribe to them. They're on YouTube, TruthStream Media. They used to work for Alex Jones. And they say, well, they left Alex Jones because he was erratic. Many of his positions were just too crazy, that kind of thing. And I understand what they're saying. I do. I've been on Alex's bad side myself. But what I look at here is, I doubt very seriously whether Patton's staff liked him as a person. He was fighting a war, Patton was, and he did some really nasty crap to his own people to try to win the war. Is that right? I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that, and Alex has admitted this, there's a psychosis that happens when you're constantly looking into the abyss. And he quotes, I forget who it was right now, was it Lord Alfred Tennyson? I'm not sure. One of those guys, and he says, don't look long into the abyss or you will become it. Alex has been doing this for a lot of years, and he, in his defense, as much as he has been able to accomplish, he feels helpless. I see it. Don't be too hard on Alex Jones. And I want you to go listen to him today. Claire Lyons, love that first cup of coffee each day. Mine's getting cold. And I don't like cold coffee. I'm not one of those, I don't like frappes or whatever they call them, iced coffees. Ugh, no thanks. Okay. A lot of these comments, you guys are probably talking to each other, so I'm going to run over them. Yeah, Republic of Texas 2019, taking back to Trump as a stable genius is being misled. Me and an average citizen is knowing all this. Trump team is tricking him. Well, I don't excuse him for that, but that's been my problem. Again, he's put deep state neocons in his administration, not one of his supporters. And like I pointed out the other day, and I don't dislike Tiger Woods, don't misunderstand me. But with all what his supporters have gone through and all the people that have been out there pushing for the restoration of the Constitutional Republic of the United States, one of those people should have gotten that medal, not Tiger Woods. Trump had an excellent opportunity to do something, I know, and then the public relations people going, no, Roy, he's trying to, win over the American people. We don't have time for any of this nonsense. He needs to put his cards down where they are. Are they there? I don't know. But yeah, there's no reason for him not to understand what's going on. I agree with you. I don't know what to say. It's been one of my real problems with Trump. Yes, absolutely. I remember Alex Jones, here we go again, saying, "Oh yeah, this was back, in 2015-16 when I guess it was early 2016 when Trump came on Infowars, is that big interview." And, afterwards, Alex is like, "Well, I know things behind the scenes, and Trump even knows more than I do." Well, I don't think so. That has not materially manifested. I don't think that's the case at all. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you, Chris Garcia. The only thing that Trump and Barr should be thinking of is justice be done, though the heavens may fall. I agree. Mindy Patriot Angel, I haven't seen you in a while. Only if you have them hooked up online. Mine are all, I guess you guys are talking about. Okay, let me just run down here real quick. I'm going to close this down here in just a minute or two. I'm just looking for if there's really 5G stuff I'm really concerned about. Yes. Fallen Star. You're talking about a connection problem. The 5G Wi-Fi won't let me connect. Interesting. I'm very concerned about Trump's position on 5G. Whether or not he wants to beat China, I don't care about that. I'm worried about the social media censorship, what the banks are doing, coming after our bank accounts, our livelihoods, not allowing us to talk about things that they decide. Here we are with the war in heaven again. I will make them do the right thing. That's Satan's side. I will make them do the right thing, that everybody gets along and everything's okay, as opposed to you have the right to your freedom of speech and your freedom, your perfect law of liberty, free agency, free choice, etc. Yeah, it's a problem, and I don't like his stand on this, and I feel that some people say there's nothing you can do about it. This is at the corporate level. I'm not so sure that's true. I'm not so sure that he can't do something about it, but maybe I'm ignorant on how that all works. Okay, let me run down through here. Okay, Barr is opening a whole can of Marfan syndrome on Comey. Swivel hips. Barr is opening a whole can of Marfan syndrome on Comey timber. I hope so. Comey needs to go down. And he's not the only one. In my estimation, hundreds, if not thousands, need to go down, but that's not going to happen. Hopefully, a couple of dozen will go down, and the message will be sent through the agencies, and they'll change the way the institutions are working and start enforcing the Constitution and that they must operate under constitutional principles. Do I think that'll happen? Well, I'm not so sure. I think we're actually on the road to destruction. But we got to keep pushing the high road agenda, even at our own peril. Life is the maximum penalty now. I'm not certain about that. It's probably all they'll get if they go. But anyway, okay. It's been an hour and 26 minutes. Killing babies, absolutely. There's no excuse for Trump to allow this to go on, or anybody in government. I don't care if state legislatures do pass laws saying it's okay. No, if it's like I said many videos back, President Eisenhower, under the civil rights, under the Bill of Rights, etc., went into the southern states with the military to make sure that blacks had their civil rights. No less should that happen for our babies. There's no excuse. And the DOJ ought to be in there on all those things. Like I said, on violations of the First Amendment, the DOJ ought to be in there saying, no, we're gonna sanction you, we're going to charge you, whatever. Same on Second Amendment infringements. And certainly on the killing of babies. This is demonic. This satanic thing that Alex talks about yesterday is in fact going on everywhere. It's been hidden. It's been in Salt Lake City for a long time. It's been in areas of Wyoming. I'm aware of these things. But it's starting to come out because it's time. It's the unveiling, and they're doing it because they want to. This mindset, this spirit wants to infect all of us, and it really has. And we have to make a conscious effort to reject it. It's not just something you do. You've got to see it, know what it is, and have the presence of mind, the Spirit of Christ really, to reject it. And if you don't, that's the divide. That's dividing the light and the dark, the good and the evil. It's what's in here and here. This is the time for, this is the proving fire. This is it. Mike Smith, that's not biblical, Roy. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. I don't know what you're talking about. A lot of people don't think that I talk about what's biblical because they go on their traditional training. Okay, what they've been told to believe the Bible says, etc. I'm telling you, okay? I've been at this. Somebody may say, well, one time you said 30 years at it, and another time 40 years. Well, it depends on what I'm talking about. I've been studying spiritual things since I was in high school. Almost 50 years ago, actually. Actually, from the time I was born. But I started getting into understanding more of the hidden things. And when I say hidden, Jesus himself said it. When the apostles came and said to him, hey, what does this mean? He says, well, to you it is given to know what it means, so I'm going to tell you, but to them it's not. I didn't say that. Jesus said it. So when you say that what I say is not biblical, I don't mind, that you would have a different concept of me. I'm not always 100% right. No, I don't claim that. But by the same token, you have no idea what I know. You have no idea. I give you words of salvation. One of the most important ones is to not be tied to personality, but to principle. That's what my father said. Taking the name of Jesus Christ upon you is becoming him. That's what the ancient meaning of taking somebody's name upon you meant. And he wasn't kidding. Greater things will you do than I have done because I go to the Father. I didn't say that. Jesus did. Before you accuse me of not saying something biblical, be more specific. I know it's kind of hard on here to be, with the limited number of keystrokes you can do. But to just to say that, I guarantee you I can counter everything you say, and I can teach you. You don't have to accept it. And I don't mean to sound prideful or boastful. But God is not the dogmatic person, not the dogmatic entity that you worship. Not so. It's like the Noahide laws. A lot of people push beyond the limits of Torah, beyond the limits of the law. And Jesus said it. You teach as commandments the doctrines of men. I'm done. Thanks for coming, everybody. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground, your situational awareness on high. The leftist Marxists are on the march. Clinton is marshaling her forces, saying that Trump needs to be taken out, that the election was stolen from her. She's saying it again. You have Pelosi talking about, as somebody brought up, about the rights situation. You have the Democrats talking about silencing you on your free speech, telling you can't be Christians, telling you can't have your political ideology, telling you can't have your AR-15 and soon to be your single-shot black powder musket. They're taking away your right to associate. They're doing things like taking out Alex Jones' face off of the internet, his words off the internet. If you speak his name, they then ban you. They're going after your bank accounts. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. You better line up with principle and leave personality behind. Rightly divide the word of God. I didn't say it. The New Testament says it. Rightly divide the word of God. There is error there for those who want to see it and do it and be it. Another level of meaning, right? It's difficult. Change the Greek back into the Hebrew and then do what I do with the words and the letters, breaking them down to their individual meanings. You'll find out something entirely different than what you thought. Not all the time. This is serious business, and we're getting to the point where these things are important. Open your eyes. See the light. This is not a simulation. This is for real. The truth is manifest to you every day. The grass isn't greener on the other side, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you. God bless yours. God bless the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America, which I do believe has been the hand of God to try to open up light to the world in another way. We've floundered and we've fledged and we've failed in many, many things because we've allowed the evil side to take over for greed and for power, and because we're lazy and complacent. God bless Donald Trump and all of his righteous endeavors, and may God send him the spirit of discernment as the dews from heaven, that he may discern the right from the wrong and have the courage to do the right thing. Thanks everybody for coming. I might be up impromptu, you never know. It's always a possibility. We'll see. Till next time.